Welcome back to Primary Source China Investment. This is show C2. And this week, we're going to change it up a little bit because given the bombastic headlines of the past week, peng.guo and I thought we needed to unpack some of those headlines and look at it in the context of investment. Not bullish or bearish. It's just about allocation and how to do that smartly. So the first topic I wanted to talk about is this Evergrande situation, this Hengda. So this is a big real estate developer. They're going bankrupt. There's no polite way to say it. And they've got $300 billion equivalent in liabilities. And people are saying, oh, it's a Lehman moment. I was in China when Lehman went bankrupt. And what the knock-on effect was that hit Hong Kong specifically, and Singapore as well, were these Lehman mini bond. And the behavior at that time was people who held these mini bond would rush to the banks that sold them the mini bond. And I think that Lehman moment, the mini bond Lehman moment, is more apt with the Evergrande Hengda moment right now. And remember, Lehman Brothers went bankrupt with about twice the amount of liabilities. They had about 600 billion in liabilities. So it is a bit different. And peng.guo, what's your thoughts about this Evergrande situation right now?
I think Evergrande is the hottest topic in the market.
Yeah.
And firstly, this company died for sure. So don't do anything about it. And no any other alternative about it. So die for sure.
Yeah.
And the rest of the things is how to just save your loss and how to get a little bit of recover from the loss. And secondly, I think this one, from investor perspective, is nothing different from the security market. This guy is really just pretty stupid. And while the sector get a bump up, they just add the average, put more into the same sector. And then the market, obviously, real estate business, not like the security market, you can sell off on the second day, there's no liquidity. And then things get worse. The worst thing is that they set up all the employees. They get employees' money into the big hole. That is the worst point in China from the China culture or people's recognition. So this company is absolutely dying.
So just to be clear, peng.guo, just to be clear, so you're saying that Evergrande took employee money and put that into the corporate account?
That's right. They threw they forced the employees to invest it into their what they call the private fund product. So and then put those illiquid product into the real estate business or whatever stuff. So and then they screw up all the employees. So that's pretty bad.
Companies like Evergrande are very interesting because of they have an outsized punch in the market because real estate takes such a big piece of the investment wallet of individuals in China. I mean, when people get wealthy, the first thing they buy is an apartment. When they get more wealthy, the second thing they do is buy another apartment. So real estate is embedded in the DNA of the investor in China. And hopefully this event is going to demonstrate that it's not always up and to the right. I mean, you and I were talking offline, real estate peaked back in 2020, and it's been on a slide ever since. And the market knows that. So people are now rushing for the exits, are very late to the game. And China's bankruptcy laws are not great. So who's going to get paid first from the liquidation of all of these big assets is going to be interesting to watch.
That's true. So like the real estate ETF, they get a peak in 2020 in July. And after that, they're already done. But after the Evergrande started the bad news, you will see these sectors start to get a bump back.
Right.
So, and some of the financial institutes start to buy the competitors' junk bond. So that is how the market, they know where's the risk, so where's came from. But obviously, we don't know. Evergrande could have such big trouble 1 year ago.
Yeah. But do you think there will be a huge knock-on effect? I mean, people are saying that this can throw China into a global financial crisis of its own.
I think the government right now just built the firewall. So they just want this get explosive within the company level rather than country level. I think they already do all the actions to try to prevent it.
Well, this is a huge topic. It's not going to go away. It does look like it's going to get worse before it gets better.
And that also means the ESG is still important. So the corporate governance is pretty much the key to the company's success.
Yeah, and also the relationship between these real estate companies and the banks. I suspect that government is going to step in and take a very hard look at the lending practices and the combined products of these credit-linked notes, these trust products, a lot of the things that are put together with real estate as the collateral on the back end of a financial transaction.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the first big topic this week. The second big topic was this AUKUS. Way back in May on show K, we talked about the Quad and that you'd be hearing a lot more about Quad. We have heard a lot about Quad, and Quad's going to have another meeting in a few weeks. But we did get this AUKUS announcement, and it's going over in China about as well as could be expected. In short, this gives Australia the technology to go and build nuclear submarines. The Chinese press was predictably apoplectic, and our favorite tweeter, Zhao Lijian, commented that this is a serious undermining of regional peace and stability and intensifies the arms race. On the other side of that, Richard McGregor, the bureau chief for the Financial Times and longtime China correspondent, said, China has engaged in one of the most rapid peacetime military buildups in recent history, focused on Navy and Air Force expansion and modernization. Furthermore, China didn't ask Japan, Australia, India, or the US or anyone else when they built military islands in disputed waters or engaged with military clashes with India on the border. So this announcement definitely affects everybody in the region. And it looks like China's strategy of going it alone is their preferred strategy now. So it'd be interesting to hear about some of those specific countries, and we're going to get into those piece by piece. But Peng.guo, where do you come down on what this announcement means?
Yeah, I think for the AUKUS is also another hot topic recently, and discussed in the entire China Internet Forum. So everybody knows that and what's going on. I think a high level is still back to the beginning. Is the China growth is a threat or is that opportunity? So I think that is number one. And number two is how to deal with China. Because all recent topic, even back to the Trump, this is an older topic. And since I'm a teenager, I already know that. And that is just back again. So it doesn't make any sense and really nothing new about it. For the conflict, I think it's pretty much Australia absolutely is a country. It's not his turn to see China's threat. So China gathered the conflict with some of the neighbor countries, historical reasons. All these countries can say China is a threat, and the United States can say China is a threat. But Australia is no any qualification to say China is a threat. Because from my childhood and grow up, we get no any conflict with Australia. It's far from. We know it's a beautiful country. Everybody wants to go, take the vacation, study, blah, 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 like that. And suddenly it's jump up to see China as a threat to doing like that. That pretty shock everybody.
Yeah, when we talked about Australia, we've talked about Australia a few times on this show, and it does look like China is squeezing Australia because Australia has come out and asked about the origins of COVID, and they've talked about the South China Sea, and they've paid a price on their exports. But it looks like it's actually hurt China more than it's hurt Australia because the price of coal has spiked in China. So, these kind of trade and policy issues are definitely linked. And China is making a very strong statement that we're going to continue to link those trade and policy ideas. The other thing that came up, like you say, the historical context is Japan. The new defense minister of Japan said the Senkaku Islands, also known as the Diaoyu Islands in China, are unquestionably Japan territory and would be defended as such. So, this is another squabble, I will say. And then, India, there's the PLA is, having all of these maneuvers in Tibet, trying to intimidate New Delhi. I mean, these are real observations. The next one is Duterte in the Philippines. He's a guy that's grown cold on Xi Jinping. So I do see this as a fundamental change. And, a lot of the China bulls are saying, well, the US just wants to keep China down. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think I think the globe needs a rising China, but it also needs a China that is responsible. So, the US has had a microscope on its policy since World War II. Is China ready to have a microscope on its policies?
That's right. I think right now, actually, the international framework is really starting the World War II. Do you want to keep it or do you want to change it? So if you change it, how to change it, and how to coordinate people to change it or to doing like that. If just you change it by yourself, obviously you get the bounce back from other countries.
Yeah,
so I think probably we need to go back to see the what's going on with history. Otherwise, it's nonsense. You just keep saying this is a threat or that is a conflict. That doesn't make too much sense.
Even France got all bent out of shape because, called out.
That's right. That's really like firstly, the political and the economy, they really should separate. This is a different area. So those guys jump in the different area and try to direct and motivate other people to follow them. That's really cause a huge problem and a loss right now. Yeah. And always peace brings money. So whatever you are doing is not related to peace, obviously the economy will get worse. Right now, it's a global economy really suffered pretty much a significant consequence right now.
Yeah, which brings us to our final point that I wanted to cover that didn't get as much press, but I think is equally important. So Universal launched its theme park in Beijing. And yeah, fine, another theme park. What's interesting is that Harry Potter and Jurassic Park have a global appeal. Of course they do. The first week or the first day or the long weekend, tickets are sold out. And these tickets are between $65 and $115 a pop. The website crashed. And Universal was able to do this without suffering any political gaffes. It should be noted, though, that Universal Beijing is a joint venture with multiple state-owned enterprises. So we do have evidence of companies that are wildly successful on the ground in China. And we look to examine how those companies did that and can they continue in the future. We also want to mention here about soft power. Does China have any product or service that can command this kind of demand outside of its borders? When Wolf Warrior 2 launches in the Midwest or in Europe, do they sell out? How about WeChat use outside of China? When people talk about brands, when people talk about soft power or globalization, this is what they're talking about. And I don't see any of those Chinese brands punching above their weight. And maybe this is where Xi Jinping's talking about dual circulation. We want those Chinese brands to do well in China and do well overseas, beginning with China, though.
That's right. Yeah, and the US have much more soft power and obviously get influence to the entire world. And just try to use this one just to generate prosperity as well as people to see wisely to coordinate with other partners. So you see that it is, so you can work and also you can fight and you don't want just after fight and then work. Let's go directly to the final stage, negotiate and see if that can work and skip the fighting process.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's a negotiation, and what are firms willing to give up and what are they not willing to give up? There's certainly firms that have just said, I'm not going to do business in China. And that's a fine decision for that company, and they're doing fantastically well. Look at Facebook. Facebook has no presence in China. They're doing pretty well. Google, no presence really in China. They're doing pretty well. So on the other side, Apple has a huge presence, and they're managing well too. So there's a way to do
both
it.
Works. So
yeah,
it depends how you want to work out.
Yeah, what won't work is fighting it. Right. I think if you want to fight it, then you have to leave. That's the reality.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And we covered last week, Shang-Chi the movie is doing fantastically well without China support. So it does go to show that there are different ways to do business on the ground in China. Different companies are going to manage it in a different way. And with that, I think Those three topics are enough to digest. I hope we gave some color to our viewers. It's a little bit different format than what we're usually used to, but I think peng.guo nailed a number of key observations here this week.
Great. Thank you very much.